God, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the room with Simon or Max or both at one of those conferences over a decade ago, seeing the realization that we're trying to build around the system, but Bitcoin is the thing. Bitcoin fixes this, right? Bitcoin solves this. What are your thoughts, Max, about those days? You were very early covering the foibles, the problems, really the disasters that came out of the banking system in the global financial crisis. Um, how do you think about those days now, over a decade ago, from your coverage of the space, your realization of the shenanigans that was going on, and how that folded into Bitcoin at those times?
Well, just listening to you guys talk and to Simon talking, it reminded me that going back to Prague in 2011, the company there that was the first company really formed that was seeking funding and was going to kick off like a venture capital move was BitPay, which had positioned itself was going to be the PayPal of Bitcoin, and they would seek relationships with retailers, and they were going to you could use Bitcoin at the point of sale, and that was the focus of, I would say, from a commercial perspective, and then the kind of overall mission of Bitcoin over the years has changed somewhat. It became less about the medium of exchange. People kind of ratchet it all back and say, wait a minute, let's talk about Bitcoin as store of value and get that story straight first, that it's synthetic digital, absolutely scarce commodity, and it's money, and it's perfect money. And let's get that figured out and well established first. And this led to the whole confrontation in 2017, the block size wars and the New York agreement. And you had the showdown between those who were looking for bigger blocks and that there should be more transactions, and there's competition with Visa and MasterCard, and that's what Bitcoin's all about. They failed against the nodes, and the nodes is securing the network, and the network secures money. So then flash forward to Bitcoin 2022, and Jack Mallers is talking about being able to go into the store and use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange using the Lightning Network to use with the deal he just cut with NCR, National Cash Register. So there's kind of a full circle here, that I've being in this for 11 years now. I'm observing how this has all come back. Lightning was what solved the problem that wasn't available back in 2011, and but that's kind of interesting. So as far as the feeling back in 2011 was very much that this was coming out of the cypherpunk movement, and it attracted both the freedom movement, the privacy movement, and the encryption movement, and the Phil Zimmerman type cypherpunks that were looking for security and privacy. And it also attracted, I mean, we have lived in this industry for years now with what we popularly call grifters. This industry, like all financial industries, attracts grifters. And I saw it at Bitcoin 2022. I mean, you have a lot of people showing up saying, I love Bitcoin, and then when you get talking to them, they're pushing a shitcoin, right? So I would say at least 20-25% of people there were fake Bitcoiners, which is fine, because that's just the way things are. But that's something that we've always had as well. We've always had this element of scams, because all financial markets attract scams. And but I think that to wrap it up here, I think that what I call the Michael Saylor era, which started about 2 years ago, was really a step up. It was really the beginning of Bitcoin as a serious professional industry, I would say. And so for 8 years though, you had a lot of shit going on. Michael Saylor kind of kicked off new era. I call it the Michael Saylor era that we're in now. And I think the next step is going to be, it might be the Janet Yellen era, because Janet Yellen just came out with a statement that was very, constructive about Bitcoin, and talking about it in a way that shows that she actually kind of understands it. So now this might be the new era where we're on the sovereign level, where banks start to really accumulate Bitcoin and start mining Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. So that could be the story of the next 12 months.
Yeah, wow, that's great history there, and it's really exciting to see. I mean, certainly the sovereign era, the country era, we were all surprised by El Salvador. At least I was. I don't know. Maybe the two of you weren't, as you've had roots in the area for quite a while now. But Simon, playing off of that theme, either with respect to what El Salvador has done, or what you're seeing in the future in terms of sovereigns, is that the next major step that you're anticipating? Let's say in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. So, what Max was saying, there was that 8-year period where it was really about the individual front running the company. So it started with a small group of activists, cypherpunks, techno geeks, and suddenly they became rich over time. And these people became influential through having monetary power as well and wealth. And so when we were able to invest in the industry and grow the industry from what was just it was self-funded. It was people growing wealthy with Bitcoin and then chucking them around at each other, experimenting with lots of different stuff. That led to lots of different scams, lots of alternatives. But at the end of it, you kind of figured out where this industry was going. And then Max mentioned the Michael Saylor industry. That was when really people started to understand that this could be used in a corporate structure, and that companies could put a percentage of their balance sheet into Bitcoin. And definitely countries is the next era. The world that we live in today, so if you look around the world, the very first thing before the war, I don't want to get political on the war side, but before it happened, you had both Ukraine and Russia legalizing Bitcoin as a very strategic move. And in the midst of all that chaos, Ukraine decided that we needed to legalize Bitcoin. And hundreds of millions were raised, in order to support some of the efforts. Now, Russia, obviously, there's a lot of talk around circumventing sanctions using Bitcoin. If you want to create immutable records of circumventing sanctions on a blockchain, then you can. But the reality is that every central bank around the world now can see that if you do not bow down to the conventional thinking, and countries don't necessarily agree with each other on what conventional thinking is, then you can have your reserves sanctioned and confiscated. So China sat on $4.5 trillion of treasuries. Those could be deleted, or China could say, we're not going to roll over the American debt anymore. And so the Bitcoin strategy for countries and for central banks is really just a no-brainer. It's completely irresponsible financial management not to put a percentage of your sovereign wealth fund into Bitcoin, unless, of course, you are one of the dominant currencies that has the most power in the world, which is obviously the dollar at the moment. And so it's like a reversal where you have the countries that have been shafted the most, like countries in Latin America that have been historically plagued by economic hitmen using IMF loans, that now can say, well, we use the dollar, we hyperinflated away our currency. The dollar seems to be a medium of exchange we can use, but it's being inflated. So let's also make Bitcoin legal tender. No-brainer move. And now people can save in Bitcoin and they can spend in dollars. Then let's restructure our securities market. Let's create securities laws just for this. Structure a bond, and we can have a bond that actually, rather than borrowing from and bowing down to Washington, D.C. through an IMF loan, or bowing down to Shanghai and Beijing through a China Belt and Road loan, we can actually construct a bond based upon a sovereign currency. and fixed supply and digital hard sound money. I think that's a no-brainer. I think Sri Lanka should be looking at that right now. They're going to take an IMF loan. I think Argentina should be looking at that right now. But I think it takes those small countries showing and paving the way, and then you have it like as a reversal. And the very last one that will purchase Bitcoin would be the Fed. And so, you know, it's kind of a very fascinating game theory that I see as inevitable, predictable, and guaranteed.